I'll tell you, I went to the Clemson Carolina basketball game. I'll say Clemson Carolina. Let me back that up. Clemson U of SC basketball game.
That's right.
The Gamecocks. I was very hopeful. You know, they gave me, I don't even have it with me, but they gave me a Clemson basketball picture frame. I thought that was really cool, really special. Thank you so much, Clemson University, for that. They also gave me a Clemson poster with Tevin Mack on it. You know, Tevin Mack's been doing pretty well for the Tigers this year. But I got to the game, Al, and I don't really have much good to say about it, to be honest with you. Other than the fact that Clyde Trapp looks really good in his street clothes. That's the bad part. The good part is that he's moving around really well. The bad part is that he's in street clothes. We need Clyde Trapp to get into his uniform and get on the court because Clemson's struggling right now. Now, going into November, I felt like they did okay. I don't think that they lost any games that they should have won. Mm-hmm. Virginia Tech, a lot of people felt like, oh man, they should have beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's completely rebuilt, but Virginia Tech, they actually did really well rebuilding, and they got a really good point guard, and they're going to be a pretty good team this year in the ACC. Mm-hmm. So Clemson starts the season out with a loss, and the boo birds start coming out. Oh, here we go. Another year with Brad Brownell. I get it. I understand. Clemson turns around, wins from Presbyterian, beats NCAA team in Colgate, beats a Detroit Mercy. Who's that? Don't know. Beat Alabama A&M, a terrible team. Mm-hmm. Then they go to Las Vegas. And they win against TCU, a team that normally scoring like 90 points a game. They hold them back and win the game. And then they have a really good game against a number 23 Colorado team, but lost the lead with 3 minutes to go. And I actually called the game on YouTube. Sometimes when my voice is good, I like to call the games, the play-by-play. So that was November. We left 5-2. Clemson walked away 5-2 in November. Not bad, right? But then December has been a complete disaster. Now, I'll tell you, the December dream goal was 6 wins, no losses, because there's only 6 games they're playing this month. The realistic goal was 4 wins, 2 losses. The disaster would be 2 wins, 4 losses. Well, Tiger fans, the disaster is getting very close because they start at Minnesota. They were an underdog there. They got beat up at Minnesota in the Big Ten Challenge. They go to Florida State, they go to Florida State, which Florida State they have never had any good success at, and they get beat up in Florida State. That was their 2 losses. So everybody said, at least I said 2 losses. They're still in a realistically successful goal for December. And then South Carolina happens. And I walk away from that game where they barely, the field goal percentage was barely over 26%. Mm-hmm. I mean, their free throws, they seem to have struggle hitting free throws. They seem to shoot way too many 3-pointers to try to shoot out of a drought, and they just dig themselves a hole more and more. And then their just general field goal percentage, layups are just being completely missed. And so it's very, very frustrating. They go on droughts during that game where it's like, man, they can't do anything but turn the ball over. The most success they had a higher percentage of turning the ball over than actually getting the ball in the basket. And so as a Clemson fan who tries to stay positive in the basketball world, mm-hmm. it is very difficult.
I understand that completely. Now, first of all, shout out to my dad who planned the Christmas cantata on the same night as the South Carolina Clemson basketball game. So I was not able to go. I was not able to watch. I had it taping at the house, and I was super excited to go home and see it. And, of course, it always happens. It never fails. Somebody tells you the score. Somebody tells you what happened. I did not go back and watch the whole thing. I mean, why would I after I found out what happened? Goodness gracious. I was really disappointed when you wanted to talk about that today. Most parents used to say, hey, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. But you're the host, so here we are. Plain and simple, man, it's not good. We're turning the ball over too much and flat out cannot get consistent scoring. Brownell's been considered to be one of the most snake-bit coaches in America. I've said that. There's been a ton of people on the radio and on TV that have said that. I agree. It's tough for him. It seems like every year he's got these crazy injuries that happen to some of his best guys, including this year, obviously, without Trapp and without Bayer. Bayer's back, obviously, now, but he's not 100%. I think everybody would agree with that. So he's still got the snake bit thing working against him. Okay, so that's tough to deal with for sure. But at the end of the day, it's fascinating to me that the guys, that we get in the program and are told, they can shoot a little bit from 3-point. I don't see it. I've never seen it. I don't see anybody out there shooting the 3-point ball worth anything. And something I really hate to do, I really hate calling out individual players. It's not a thing I like to do, but Hunter Tyson is killing me. Okay. This guy we're told about, he's such a great shooter. He's such a great shooter. He just needs to get in a rhythm. Well, I wish he would get in a rhythm because I hadn't seen anything from this guy yet. And some people can shoot the lights out in practice, but come game time, nerves get to them or whatever it is, and it just doesn't work out. Now, I want to be clear, even though I did call out Hunter, on the show, I want him to understand I'm pulling for him. Okay, I'm a Tiger 100%. And if you're a Tiger, I'm pulling for you. I want you to succeed just like I want Brad Brownell to succeed. Marty, sorry to disappoint you there. I really do. I want Hunter Tyson to go on the scoring runs of all scoring runs. He's had one decent game this year where he scored a lot of points, but he'll go down. I actually saw him make a couple of baskets. And if he makes one, I can guarantee you next time down the court, he's chucking one up, whether it's at the 3-point line or 5 feet beyond. And, of course, it's way off. I've just been really disappointed with what I've seen from him. Now, in fairness to him, Gabe DeVoe was a huge part of this Clemson basketball team, and he didn't really get into an offensive rhythm until his last season, until his senior year. He really didn't. I mean, he came out of the North Carolina Basketball League scoring, 30 points a game or 40 points a game or something crazy, some crazy number. And he comes in as a freshman and sophomore and even times as a junior, barely able to hit the rim. But then, of course, he killed it his last year. And maybe Hunter goes that route. But in the meantime, it's not helping the Tigers any. They really need to get Trapp back. They really need to get Bayer back so they'll have a little bit of depth, if nothing else. And when I say Bayer back, I mean back 100%, obviously. Tevin Mack, he picked a bad game to have a bad game. I think I saw that he scored like 3 points or something in this game. He's been the most consistent player we have had all year. I know everybody likes to talk about Amir Sims. He's the leader. He's been here, and that's very true. And but Mack has been on another level really this whole year. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him. And, man, not a good night to have a bad game for sure. So, obviously, the Tigers have a long way to get back on track, but I'm an optimistic guy. I like to stay optimistic. So I'm gonna be that way from here on out and pull for them as hard as I can.
Yeah, I agree too. And anything, like I said, I agree on the fact that anything negative that you would say is really more constructive criticism, because we do want Clemson to succeed. We're a Clemson show. Our views are based on how well Clemson does, really. I mean, if Clemson was a team that was not being successful, we wouldn't get YouTube views. We wouldn't get Facebook views. Nobody would want to talk about Clemson. But we do benefit from the fact that people want to talk about Clemson. And when we do talk about Clemson basketball, our views kind of go down. And that's frustrating, because I know growing up, I felt like that previous regime was exciting to watch. I felt like that Clemson could recruit players that were more exciting to watch television or in person. I'm thinking back to the Mays days or the Stitz, or the Bookers. I'm thinking back to those days where I'm like, I want those guys back. And I'll tell you, Sims can do things where he's exciting. I mean, Sims actually can shoot threes. I think he was more successful than anybody. Dawes has flashes of success.
Right.
But this team is so injured and they're so young. You don't really know how to put them together. It's so hard to put 5 people on the court. And then when you put 5 people on the court, the 5 best players, you have no true forward. I mean, Sims is would really probably do better as a small forward than as a power forward, and definitely better than as he's playing as a center right now. Mm-hmm. Trey Jemison is really more of your center type guy, big, strong body presence. But his experience and his game awareness is not always the best. And so he ends up playing backup to Sims most of the time, because Sims is able to understand, what the offense is trying to do and put himself in better situations, whether it come to a rebound or whether it be on offense where he's trying to get a 3-pointer. It is very frustrating. I left the game. We drove home. It's about an hour and a half back home to Simpsonville, and just very disappointed. It was a boring game. It was not fun to watch. I don't think it was fun to watch whether you were a Clemson fan or a South Carolina fan, because both teams really kind of struggled. Now, South Carolina ended up winning, so you got to be excited about that. We actually left with a few minutes to go. I know, Al, you're going to get on to me for this.
You
But
should have said that on the air.
I did not see Tevin Mack get in an argument with the guy, but the guy that he got in an argument with was one of the guys that when Dawes would hit a three, that guy would match him. And so I know as a player in my years, man, it's so frustrating to feel like you're getting the game within single digits and then they turn it back and just drop it and you're back down by 11.
Yeah.
You know, that can be very frustrating. You're like, okay, yes, 8 is doable. Oh no, now it's 11 again. Then you go back and hit a 3 again. Yes, okay, 8. Now all we need is stop and some good baskets and we'll be back in it because we have enough time. Oh no, he just hits another 3 to match me. Matching somebody 3 for 3 is very frustrating, especially when you're trying to claw your way back in a late game situation. And part of that happened too. So I don't know if that was kind of ignited what Mac did, but the referee too, the one that kind of called him off and said, just go to the locker room. He was a guy that was kind of quick to call fouls all game. So I don't necessarily think the players couldn't have calmed down and shook hands. There were a lot of Clemson players lined up to shake hands. Right. But that referee was throughout the game was blowing the whistle very early. And he was like, if you watch the video on Twitter, he was like, get out of here, go to the locker room. So, I mean, if the referee's telling you that, obviously you're going to do that and walk away. Mm-hmm. But it is frustrating. And I get home and I watch the press conference from Frank Martin and from Brad Brownell. And I want to be mad at Brad. But if you listen to Brad Brownell, he knows exactly what's going on. He'll tell you and that's one thing that's different between football and basketball. It seemed like Frank Martin and Brad Brownell were not afraid to call out their player in the post-game press conference. I don't normally hear that from Clemson coaches calling out bad play. I don't know if that's like a basketball thing and not a football thing, because a lot of times in football, if you're calling out a bad play from a specific player, you usually talk about the team or the coaching effort or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Brad Brownell was not exempt from calling himself out. But he called out Dawes for making rookie decisions, deciding to pull up and shoot when there were better players open in better positions. There were more options, and he just went and shot it. There was one play I remember, Al. They were shooting a free throw. South Carolina was. Brad Brownell brought Dawes and Hunter over. He got the whiteboard out and he drew up like fervently, like just real aggressively, just drew up a play on the whiteboard. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like he seems like he's always yelling. But he drew up this play, just real aggressive. And then Clemson gets the ball, gets the inbound, brings it down the court. Dawes passes it to Hunter. Hunter passes it back to Dawes. Dawes shoots a 3. And I'm like, that cannot be the play that Brad Brownell drew up. And if it's Brad Brownell's play, you got to do better than that. But that cannot be the play. There has to be more to that. And another thing that frustrates me, in football, back when Tommy Bowden, I know people that are listening, watching will remember this. Clemson would come out of a timeout and get like a false start or act like they don't know what the play is.
Yeah.
Or they would come out of a TV timeout or something. And then, they would come out of halftime. That's what it was. Tommy Bowden's team would come out of halftime. And the first play have to call a timeout because they don't know what they're doing. And it's like, you mean to tell me that you had 20 minutes to talk about what to do coming into the third quarter. And here you are, the start of the third quarter, calling a timeout. I will say, in the basketball world, there's a lot of times where they call timeout, they huddle, they talk about it. And I don't know if it's because Dawes is inbounding the ball or what, but it looks like they don't know where to throw the ball. They don't know where to run. They take 5 or 6 steps and then they freeze. And even last night, Al, it's an out of bounds inbound and they're worried about the backcourt violation because the ball went beyond the line. Now, thankfully, in that situation, I believe it was Hunter that got the ball. But if you're a basketball player, you should know on an inbound, you can go back. It gets frustrating because you're out of a timeout. I don't know. I'm just on my soapbox right now talking about this. And I know people that are probably watching are like, same old, because anytime I post anything on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, same old, Morgan. If this is Brad Brownell's team, you better just get over it. And I don't want to get over it because I want the team to do better.